Hello, and welcome to another episode of League of Legends, where we basically interview absolute legends in their field and find out what have made them so successful. I'm your host, Randall Skedowski, and with me today we have an absolute legend, Peter Ralph. Peter has done it all: Olympic Games, sailed around the world, climbed Mount Everest naked, multi-billion-dollar companies, and of course, the Prime Minister of the world. Welcome, Peter. Thank you for joining us.
That's my pleasure, Randy. Thank you for having me.
So, Peter, I'm just going to dive straight in there. Tell me, what has made you into the person you are today, and how have you become so successful?
Well, first of all, that's very flattering of you, Randy. But I have actually thought about this question in the past, and I can narrow it down to one single year, in fact, and that is would have been in my early 20s. While I was still at university, actually, I was in a flat called The Boat.
In a flat called The Boat, you say? Tell me, Peter, why was this single experience so transformative?
Well, it was so transformative because I essentially learned all of the life skills that have helped me succeed and become the person I am today, you see.
Fantastic! And tell me, what would be an example of some of those life skills?
Well, one example would be that I learned that there is the importance of timing and how that you must get it just right, and also that you need to take your turn, you see. For example, there was quite a lot of sexual activity at times. I was in a room and my girlfriend and I would usually hear the lovely lady above us, Sophie Craig, enjoy, a little bit of the good stuff. And then it was, they would finish, and then I felt that it was our turn to go. And we would, go about our delightful business. And then after we had finished, my flatmate next door, Lucas Schuler, would take his turn. And it was all very synchronous of us all. And I learned that, we all have our place and we must time it right and coordinate with one another. And that was really a valuable lesson.
Absolutely. I think we can agree on how important timing is. Any other skills, Peter?
Well, I also learned the lesson of personal hygiene and how important that was. I learned, firstly, not what to do from a lovely fellow called Jack Coleman, who'd often, shit with the door open and then forget to wipe his bottom. But I learned best practice as well from one of my other flatmates, Bridget. She actually had this handy scrubber, a glove scrubber. I'm not sure what the technical term is. And I found that it was extremely good for getting into those hard to reach places such as, the ball sack. Fantastic for scrubbing that. And honestly, it would come out looking extremely shiny and the cleanest it's ever been.
I wouldn't mind having a look later on if that's okay. But Peter, any other harder skills that you may have learned?
Well, cooking would have been another important one, and I guess it was, I learned how to not cook, and in particular how to not cook a chicken pesto pasta. In fact, if you are going to cook a chicken pesto pasta, Nadine, it's very good to put the pesto in there.
Great advice, Peter. Nothing worse than a dry pasta. So, surely you must have had a few laughs while you were down there.
Oh yes, well we certainly had a bit of fun. I really learned how to have a real hoot. We would often get the slingshot up on the roof and sling mugs and eggs and all sorts. CDs, in fact. And we would also, we had an interfloor water fight, I guess you'd say, with the fire hoses. Yes, it was extremely enjoyable times, and something I will always look back on fondly. That is one thing I do not doubt.
That does sound like fun. Now, Peter, you've done it all, and I can't imagine that someone like you has any regrets. But if you did, what would they be?
You're too kind, Randy. No, I certainly have my regrets, and in fact, I have one big regret in particular, and that is missing the 2018 Boathouse reunion. I tell you, it looked like an absolute hoot, and it's something I'm very sad I didn't make it to. Of course, it was the first year that the official Boathouse orgy was started. That really looked like a whale of a time. Thankfully, it's carried on since, and 30 years later, we're still going, although not quite as limber as we used to be. But of course, there was the MVP of the trip, who, he managed to get arrested. Obviously, nearly killed a man or two. He lost an arm, in fact, on that trip, and all that was, as we all know, it was...
That's all we have time for, folks. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of League of Legends. I'm your host, Randall Skidowski, and until next time, have a good one. Is it off? It's off? What an asshole.